Hello, hello. It is day 2 of the challenge. Very excited. Just going to turn this little light. There we go. I was like, why is that so bright on the screen? But I've got a light on my computer to help me see because my eyes are terrible. So I'm just waiting for the lovely Heather Gray to hop on. We're going to do a quick live. We're going to talk about procrastination, about stepping up and being the boss in your business. I am just going to invite a couple of you. There we go. Look at that. Getting really fancy with this. I haven't gone live from my phone in so long. Honestly, it is a very, very long time since I've been doing anything. Okay, let's see if I can search for Heather specifically. When you're here, say hi. Give me a wave. There we go. How do I get rid of that? There we go. Hey, Mal. Got Anne Louise, got Nikki. See, Facebook's funny because it lets me stalk certain people. And it'll tell me, it's like, oh, Anne Louise is live and Bernadine's live. And some people, it doesn't tell me. Yay! Okay, Heather is here. Let me just push the magic button. Emma. But I feel like I was just chatting to you over email. Yay! Look at that. I like how me and Heather have made sure that we're wearing different clothes today than we were yesterday. I'm like, the rest of the week I would not bother, but, challenge week, I'm going to make an effort. Hey, Nicole.
Oh, it's so funny. Like, one of the things, and you might not even know this about me, is that I dress for work. Like, even though I work from home, I like, Ariana always jokes about, like, team sweatpants. I always dress for work because I have to get in the mindset of, like, and that's one of the things I've been talking about in boss mode today, is that, like, I have to get in the boss mindset. And if I'm wearing my Patriots shirt, I can't feel like the boss. So I always tend to, I tend to dress for work. And I was realizing that since we box here all the time, you might not even know that about me.
Now I know. It's like we don't look at each other. We just boxers. I on the other hand have got to admit I'm a leggings kind of person. Leggings and a nice top is my standard uniform of choice. Even when I was in the corporate world, I used to rock up in flip-flops in the summer, and I was the only person that they'd let do it just because I literally gave 0 F's about what was going. I was like, all right, everyone else is wearing heels, that's cool, but it's really hot and I'm gonna wear flip-flops and nobody's gonna see them under my desk anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, and like sometimes I'll be barefoot. Barefoot is like as basic as I'll get. Like,
I'm rocking. So one of my friends went to New Zealand recently. She's from New Zealand. So if anyone else is from New Zealand, then you'll love these. She brought me these, so everyone can see my pink feet. And they are possum socks. They're made from possum wool. And honestly, they're the warmest things I've ever had on my feet. And I just love them. So much that she had to buy me like 5 pairs. So I've just been like rotating. But there we go. So today we're talking about procrastination and about this stepping up and being the boss mindset. And I think the first thing that I want to say is that, me and Heather were boxering earlier, as is our thing. And we were saying that people have put in some incredibly vulnerable posts in here, and people have been incredibly brave and really honest, and we really appreciate that. So, for everyone who has already posted or who is about to post, we've really appreciated how transparent you've been. It makes it a lot easier for us to give you good feedback. And we just wanted to say we're really impressed, because typically it doesn't happen. It's not easy to be transparent, just like we were saying yesterday. So we appreciate it, and we just wanted to let you all know that we hear what you're saying.
Especially for this conversation, I think it's so much easier to own that you want to own a business, or that you want to help women, or you want to offer a solution to a pain point. I think that it's different when you say you want to be the boss of your business, because we have such a sort of a programmed way of looking at what being a boss means, because we come from this corporate mentality where our boss is on our ass all the time, where our boss has these unreasonable expectations, where our boss doesn't care about feelings, rather than recognizing the boss has to hold the big picture, and we're responsible for that as business owners. But if we're not choosing to be the boss, We're choosing to be an employee of our own business by default, and that's not a choice anyone's ever going to want to make.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing. Me and you have had this kind of conversation, and we're not gonna pull out the whole conversation today because obviously we will share, the bits of our businesses and things like that. But the conversation that we've had for months and months, and really the kind of lead up to this challenge and to other things that we're doing at the moment, is about the idea of the difference between being a boss in your business and making money online. And so, the expectation that I have from people in this group is probably pretty high. Like, I was thinking about this earlier. I meant to say this to you. But I was thinking about it earlier, and I was thinking that out of all of the business groups that are around online, we don't actually expect people to do that much. We expect people to be passionate, right? We expect people to want to make an impact. We expect people to want to help people. But we don't actually expect people in our communities to want to do the tough stuff. We don't have that expectation of people to deliver really good customer service. We don't have the expectation for people to fire people when they need to fire people and hire people when they need to hire people. And sometimes I think, particularly as a new business owner, it can be really challenging when your sole focus is, I need to make money, and rightly so, right? You should always be focused on making money in your business, 100%. But it can be really challenging to start thinking, at what point do I make that shift from making money, and being on that kind of Ferris wheel versus I'm making money, but is it the money I want to make? And am I making it in the right way for me? And that's when you shift into becoming a business owner, right?
Yeah, I agree. I also think that one of the things that people need to sort of think a little bit about here is that I think a lot of times people decide that they don't need to be the boss of their business until they earn their first X amount. So they pick their amount, and it could be 1K, 5K, 10K, and then they'll start bossing their business when they make serious money. But I think that affects how we play into our business. And somebody posted about this yesterday. Employees. Then he picked the training manager, the food. Then he did all those things before he ever made his first buck. And that's still being the boss of your business.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, my phone went. My mother was calling me. Like, oh, that's it. I'm loved. Oh, always at inconvenient times, but it is that kind of thing. And I think we do have that expectation in here. We do have that expectation when it comes to the challenge, and I think that does make people uncomfortable. So please don't worry if you kind of looked at the challenge today and went, oh God, being the boss in my business, actually being the boss in your business right from the very beginning means that yes, you will lose out on certain sales and you will lose out on certain opportunities. It's very likely the opportunities and the sales you lose out on would not have been the right ones to build anyway, and one of the things that I want to talk about today, so being the boss in our business and doing all that kind of thing, I had a realization probably about 2 days ago and has anyone done this? So there was a really popular strategy that was pimped out by some really big coaches, and I've participated in this, so I'm throwing my hands up here. About a year ago, 18 months ago, which was participate in as many giveaways, summits, whatevers as possible to build your list. Who's had that? Who's heard about that, right? Participate in as many giveaways, as many summits, as many everything as you want. And the thing that always comes to me, and I get this a lot in the dotties, people go, oh, but they always want a list of 5,000. They approach me and then they want me to have a list of 5,000. And I've always been kind of like, fine, I paid my dues. I got my list of 5,000 people. It was hard work. And I'm fine about being accepted onto a summit to promote something that I genuinely believe is congruent to my audience. However, a couple of days ago, I realized that actually I wasn't okay with that anymore. And I was like, I'm actually getting really pissed off that a lot of people who I don't know, who I will have never met, met or made any kind of relationships with will come to me and they'll say, oh, Jess, you've got a really big list. Love it if you could participate in my giveaway or summit. And actually, I look at it and I go, I'm really protective. And people who know me will know that I'm really protective of my Facebook community. I'm really protective of my community. And, you know, whenever we have things that have been a little bit iffy, we've removed people from the group who haven't had integrity. We've done lots of things to protect the integrity of my community. And I just kind of thought, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm really tired of participating in this model that I know is outdated, that I don't enjoy anymore. I don't enjoy having to promote like 6 times across my email list and social media and have somebody message me on the day that the email's supposed to go out and say, what time is it going to go out? And, oh, actually, you know, only like 50 people clicked and I was expecting more. And I'm thinking, well, your copy was crap. So, you know, that's why they didn't click. And so rather than perpetuate that model, the boss in my business says, well, just don't do it anymore. So I won't. So from today onwards, what you won't see from me is me participating in a bunch of giveaways and a bunch of summits and a bunch of things, because actually I don't want to expose my audience to people that I don't know, who really have only approached me because they believe that I have, rightfully so in some cases, a large list and an engaged community, because to me that doesn't feel good anymore. And, you know, whilst it made sense when I wanted to grow my list and I wanted to be congruent and things, actually I feel like it diminishes what I'm about as a business owner, which is I don't believe that people can endlessly consume free content. I just don't think that we have that capacity. So instead, as the boss of my business, what I'll be doing is looking at the people that I really care about, that I relationships with those people, and saying, right, okay, you are the people that I want to bring into my audience. You are the people that I want to, you know, participate and help. You are the people that I really believe would make a difference to my audience, and your content would make a difference. And so I'll happily feature you without this whole promo crap of you must do this on these days. Instead, I want to work on, okay, I like that person. I've used that person. I can happily recommend that person. And I'd rather do that. And I'd rather make that a basis of my community than spend hours of my time contributing to stuff that honestly I just don't care about. That's my boss decision for the day.
I think too that it's about owning that that also means that some people may develop opinions about you, that you don't, that now that like you've had all these awesome wins and you've been on Great Britain today and you're doing these, that like you're too good for XYZ kind of person. So I think that part of it is recognizing that that's absolutely true, that people are going to have that opinion about you, because I stopped doing summits myself, and the summit owner wrote that back to me and said, though some people might not know that I do mindset consultation for Screw the 9 to 5. So the person wrote back and said, now that you're in Jill and Josh's back pocket, apparently you're too good for the rest of us. Like that was the phrase. And it's that like when we make decisions as bosses, people aren't going to like it and people are going to have opinions about it. And I think that knowing that and knowing that that's true is one of the reasons why people don't jump into that boss role, because they think if they don't identify themselves as a boss, they're protecting themselves from that experience, rather than recognizing that like choosing to be the boss means choosing that those comments are going to come, but that you as the boss get to control the narrative. You don't get to control the narrative if you're not the boss. If you're just an employee in your own company, then public opinion is going to sway it. Now, as the boss of your business, you get to tell your community of 1,000 to 2,000 people, hey, you're not going to see me in this summit, and this is why. People might have an opinion about that, but this is why I've made that choice. I think it's really powerful, and it gives us control. And I think that's the piece that people recognize, that when we ruffle feathers, we absolutely are going to ruffle them. That's unavoidable, but we get to control We get to tell people what we want them to think. If we become and choose to be the leaders, if we don't step up into that leadership role, the court of public opinion rules the day.
Exactly. Exactly. And like Nicole said here, people won't like us for one reason or another. And it's true. I think being the boss means that publicly people will say, here is my opinion on you. And I think that was something that was really hard for anyone who has visited my business page. If you've seen the pinned post, you'll see it's about the amount of hate mail that I get every week. And people are always really surprised that I get hate mail. And the people who, obviously people who like me, I'm surprised. People who don't like me, they're not that bothered. But, some of the things that people say are because I stand very, very specifically on certain sides of the fence. So you get the hate mail that's, oh, you're fat, or you're this, or you're that. And to be honest, that's just sad for those people. And then you get the people who are genuinely upset that you don't want to participate in summits anymore, and that's not fair because they want you to do that so that something can happen for them.
Yeah.
And it's a completely rational response, but I think what we have to look at is that when we're being the boss, we have to accept that people won't like every decision you make. Being the boss means that people may criticize you publicly. And I think that's the big fear that people have. People worry that people will criticize you publicly and that will sting more. In all honesty, I can tell you that I've cried just as hard over emails from people who've said that I'm fat or that, I don't deserve whatever it is I've got, just as much as I've cried over people who've been genuinely upset and told, and messaged me and said, I have to leave your community because I just think that it's really out of order that you take this big stand on integrity and that you're making it all about integrity. It's going to hurt either way. Being the boss isn't always a good feeling, but what we're talking about, certainly for the purpose of this challenge, is making sure that you step into that mindset of not, I don't care what other people think, because we always do. You will always be bothered by what other people think of you. You are always going to be affected by that, but that you don't base your business decisions on what you think other people will think, that you actually make the decision first and then you let them make up their own minds and you accept that, yeah, okay, some people are going to like it, some people won't, but whatever happens, that decision is yours as the business owner and yours alone.
Right. Well, one of the things too is that I think people forget, like, that awful feeling that you just talked about, and they think about stepping into that and choosing that. What I don't think anyone really talks about is what it feels like when you don't act like the boss of your business. So if we go back to the time that Jess made Heather cry, because that's the foundation of our friendship, she basically told me I was being selfish, that I had a way of helping people and making people have an easier time, and I was keeping it to myself because I wasn't showing up. I put this like newbie mentality or umbrella over me and told myself that because I was new, I shouldn't do A, B, or C, rather than like there was nothing new about me. I had 20 years of postgraduate master's level therapy experience coming online. I owned my own business for 10 years. I had been a program manager for 10 years before that, supervising 30 people. There was nothing new about me, but because I wasn't stepping into the boss role and because I wasn't controlling my business, I was living and building a business model in that reactive mode where my business only grew if people had questions that I was able to answer. That feeling sucks. I would so much rather die on my own sword because I said something kind of controversial or kind of provocative and live and die on that than feel that small and that embarrassed. And I can't remember how many people we had on that call that day. There were maybe 10 of us or so, but like, yeah, just in front of 10 people, I felt stripped naked. And that's because I wasn't the boss of my business. I never want to feel that way again. And I think that that's the choice people have, is if you don't step into the boss of your business, then the comments are like, I don't have a real business. I just have an expensive hobby. I'm not really doing this. That's where those bullshit stories take hold, because we're not showing up for ourselves. rather than recognizing that if we own who we are, what we do, and how we serve, we have a business, and then we get to chart the, we get to chart the course and the direction. Gemma, I see you commenting, so I'm gonna pop in and answer something specifically for you. I was doing it right before we went live, so I don't know if I even hit send yet. But you were talking about really wanting to own the fact that you want to be a boss of a business that helps introverts be bosses of their own business. Now, once you own that, you then get to say, as an introverted boss, how do I want to run my business? How do I make that choice? If you're just like, oh, I'm an introvert and I want to own a business and I hope people will find me, you lose total control. You're in the passenger seat of your car, and that car is going to freaking drive, or it's going to be in the right-hand lane, or it's going to be parked in a garage, or it's going to be off to the side. But if you decide as the business owner of a business for introverts, how do you want to boss your business? You get to say, you know what, Facebook Live really isn't my thing. That's what everyone else does. I kind of like audio podcasting. Or you know what, there's so many introverts who feel like they can't be successful in the corporate life because they don't speak up in meetings. I'm going to go on LinkedIn and help them over there because it's an easier platform. You get to decide the how once you've made the decision to be the boss. That's what I think is so powerful. And that's what I think people forget, is that once you own the boss, you get to decide what kind of boss you want to be. You get to decide your leadership style, your way of talking to people, your business plan. You're no longer the employee. You're the driver. You get to decide. So that way, if you're mild-mannered, you get to be mild-mannered. If you're, what the fuck, I asked for this to be done on Tuesday, you better find the VA who can handle being spoken to that way, but you get to be that boss. That idea. Does that make sense for people? That's what we're trying to embrace for you guys.
And Gemma's saying there as well that you called her out and she loved it. And, I think Liz has a really interesting...
I'm sorry. Like, I wasn't even trying to call you out. I was just giving you as an example. I'm sorry about that. This is Heather as...
This is Heather as the boss. She just does it naturally. But it's that kind of thing. And Liz is saying here as well about, worrying about what people think, and that actually ex-colleagues have been really supportive, and now it's less of a problem. I think the biggest thing that I see about people not stepping into boss mode and people who are building a business based on what they think other people or how other people will react to what they're building is that if you are not in boss mode, you are reactive, and you are predominantly reactive, because all of your time is spent wondering, oh God, what does this person think? What does that person think? What do I do if? So your entire business model is built on, I'm reacting constantly, sometimes to things that are there. So in Heather's case, when she used to do it, she used to react to questions that were being asked and things like that, and sometimes to things that aren't. People's, opinions of you and what you are concerned that they may or may not think. You cannot build a long-term business on that. Okay, businesses cannot be reactive for the majority of the time. And that's why when I said to Heather about her being selfish, which she's, obviously the least selfish person on the planet, but in a business sense, she was. Because she wasn't being proactive. She wasn't proactively generating or starting conversations or discussions or reaching out and letting people know, hey, actually, I saw that you did this and I think this, or maybe you could start that. That was what was selfish about it, not Heather as a person. And, I think, again, this comes down to being the boss and, to a certain degree, people skills. You have to know who you are as a person before you can go out and run your business, because I'm not somebody who will sugarcoat things. I'll be nice about things if I think that people, maybe need a little bit more of a delicate touch. But ultimately, when people work with me, when people join my community, they're not joining it because they want Mary Poppins giving them the advice. They're joining it because they know that I'm just going to tell it straight and I'm going to give them the actionable advice. Go do this. What they choose to do with that is up to them. And I, release all expectation of what happens after the advice comes out of my mouth or out the keyboard. What they do with it is up to them. But as a business owner, when you step into the boss mindset, you've got to be aware, look, some people I can say, you're selfish too, and know that they might cry, but they'll take it in the way it's intended. And some people, that's not going to work. And you have to look at, are they then my ideal clients, right? Look, Nicole, I'm scared every time, but I still show up for more of Jess. And this is true. Nicole showed up to her Dottie call last week and was like, I am terrified. And subsequently did really well. But it is that kind of mentality. We have to look at, what makes us procrastinate. And when you're not being the boss of your business, because you are so reactive to everything else around you, you procrastinate on the things that could make a difference because you don't want to proactively plan in case you miss something that you could react to right now.
Well, the other thing too, just to jump in here, is I think that one of the things that people forget about is most of the people who are in this challenge or having this conversation are building businesses based on personal brands. So they feel as though everything they do, say, act, speak is about them, and it feels so personal. If you can remove yourself from what would the boss do, or what does the boss need to see happen, or what's the boss move here, whatever the reaction is far less personal. So, the example I always give is whoever invented crystal clear Pepsi, like the boss of that business invented something totally wackadoo that made no sense and was completely against the whole freaking point of Pepsi. They don't really care that the audience was like, what the F is this? I'm not drinking this. It's going and it went off the market and it busted. Because the boss of Pepsi knows that if they don't stay current, if they don't stay relevant, if they don't develop the new thing, people are going to go somewhere else. That's why you see Dunkin' Donuts selling pizza and selling ham sandwiches and selling all kinds of things, because everybody's trying to get everybody, which is a whole nother business lesson. But it's the idea that bosses of their business know that if they don't stay current, if they don't stay convenient, that the client is going to go somewhere else. It's easier to be braver when you think of the boss business. And the example I always come up with is my Boxer plan. One of the things that Jess and I went round and round about is that I undercharged my Boxer plan because I didn't think I would take, who would take one-on-one coaching on demand seriously? Who would take walkie-talkie coaching seriously as a business thing? I didn't think it was legit, so I lowballed myself when in reality, people made enormous gains over Voxer, and there was transformative things that happened. The boss of my business would have owned that. But Heather, the former mental health therapist who used to have a legit business offering professional mental health services, felt like a little kid and felt like she was playing small, so that I acted small. If I had just said, what does the boss of this business need to have happen, that decision would not have been as hard.
And this is the thing, I think the kind of key thing is to look at everything that you're doing as the boss in your business is going to naturally be more scary than anything you see out there that's promising you quick wins. If I look at most of the business models out there and they're telling me, oh, do a webinar into a discovery call and you'll make a ton of money, or, run a big funnel with 10 steps that have upsells and downsells, then naturally I'm going to assume that either it's going to be easier or it's going to be better or whatever because somebody else already did it. But when I sat here in this group, what was it, 10 months ago? And I said, right, okay, we're culling the group. And this was before it got popular, that nobody else had culled their groups. And I was like, right, we're just going to cull it because I'm tired of having people that don't engage. And so we had a big list of people who wanted to stay, and we had literally almost 1,000 people that we kicked out because they just weren't engaging. Was it scary? Yes, absolutely. But if I hadn't done it, I'd still be sat here 10 months later trying to get people to engage, wasting energy on people who just didn't want to do anything. And that's what we're saying. Being the boss stops you procrastinating because when you look at what you actually achieve, once making the decision is the hard bit, once that's done, you're committed to it. So it just goes ahead and it happens, and it might not be perfect, but it works, and it does, and you tweak it and test it over time. Making the decision is the biggest part of being the boss, and looking at all the bits that come into play and saying, okay, well, how do I want that to run? You know, and I was having a dotty call with somebody earlier, and I was saying, you've got to look at what makes you happy, what makes an ROI, what do you want to keep doing, and what do you want to get rid of? And that's it. And when I look at my business decisions, that is how they're all made. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions? Are there any questions anyone has for me or Heather? Melanie, am I weird that I'm actually excited waiting until Friday when I can start chopping my group in half? No, you're not. It's great. It's a great feeling. You just get rid of like tons of people. It's brilliant. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions for Heather or I or both of us on any of this stuff, on how you're feeling during the challenge or anything like that? You know, and if there is anyone who's been thinking today, oh, actually, I am nervous about writing, you know, what the boss would do, because it is the uncomfortable bit, it is the bit that makes me nervous, that's normal, you know, and that's not going to change. And part of being the boss is that you either make the decision to go ahead and do it anyway and feel the discomfort, or you go, no, I don't want to share that.
And while we wait for questions to come in, you know, there's 2 points I'd like to make. One is that a year ago, Jess decided she wanted to go bolder, and that part of going bolder meant she had to cull her list. Part of going bolder meant she had to move off Facebook, have a podcast, write a book, host an event. She made those decisions as the boss of her business a year ago. So she had to sit in that heart for a really long freaking time before she got to see the reward of her planner coming out, her book being published. She's on freaking YouPreneur.
So excited.
From Great Britain, and she's in all of that. That was a year ago. That's what bosses do. Bosses also hold the big picture. And I think that that's another part of this that's incredibly important for people to know, that sometimes reactivity feels really, really good because you see the immediate result. You freak out, you stress out, you go, oh my God, I need a client. You go into hustle mode, you get that client, and you feel awesome. Being the boss sometimes means go like slow and steady, and charting your course and recognizing that you're holding out for a bigger vision, and that like all the pieces aren't going to come together right away. It's that delayed gratification, and that is really hard. But that's the other really important thing. If you want to step into a leader role of your business, if you really want to own the direction your business is going, you have to hold that big picture and be confident that by culling your list, you are somehow making room for something greater, because it doesn't feel that way. If I was able to say, when Jess and I were talking about culling her list, don't worry, at some point this path is going to get you across the table from Pierce Morgan. You are going to be talking to Chris Ducker while he's in an airport. Like, this is all going to be okay. That would have been easy. Instead it was, well, what if people don't like me? How are people going to react? And we have to go through that to hold on to the big picture. And I think that that's why the wins are so awesome. And if you aren't the boss of your business, you can't own that as a win, because you didn't take control of it happening. You just got lucky. The wind blew a certain way. You know, the butterflies went and the rainbows came out, and suddenly it was possible. And if the rainbow doesn't come out that day, you don't get to have it. As the boss of your business, you get to control the weather and the climate of your business, which is just an incredible spot to be. And we're all watching Jess step into that because she made really hard decisions a year ago.
Yeah. And I think the key thing there is that they were really hard. They might not have been publicly really hard, but they were tough decisions, and making those decisions was really uncomfortable. Culling my group, uncomfortable. Culling my list, uncomfortable. Deciding to take time away from this group. You know, there was a lot of flack that I got from not doing daily live streams anymore. But it had to be done. because if it wasn't done, I couldn't have gone on to create things like the podcast, like the book, because that wouldn't, it just didn't fit. There was no time for that, right? There are a few comments here that are really good, so I'm just going to grab those one sec. So we've got Emma. I think in your last challenge, I wrote a post about being the boss, and I reposted it again on LinkedIn. Keep reposting it. People need to, people need to be the boss, especially in your area of expertise. They need to know about that. We've got Gemma who says, I've updated my LinkedIn profile because of this challenge, totally changed it, so thank you, and it feels so good to finally make the decision. Yay! That's awesome. Joyce, delayed gratification is super hard. I think delayed gratification now is really hard. Like with social media and with how instantaneous everything is, like response-wise, delayed gratification for me seems harder now. Writing my book and actually recording my podcast and batching like those kinds of things is eminently harder for me than it ever was to go on Facebook Live every day. And everyone's like, oh God, how is that? And I'm like, well, doing 400 hours worth of Facebook Lives when I could just rock up at the same time every day and be like, I'm just going to say this, was much easier than thinking, oh, right, I'm going to have to think about this quarter and what the key messages are and what the trends are in the industry and put out content around that. And, every day having to write 1,000 words or whatever it is for the book. That was difficult. That was harder. Emma says, I do hold back a bit on commitments that I have because of the challenges that I have at home. I know I need to stop that because I always manage the challenges. Do you know what? I don't think you're being fair to yourself there, actually, Emma. You are like a superhero. You have so much going on. And I don't think it's about always managing the challenges. I think it's about streamlining the stuff you really want, and saying, okay, well, it's not about, well, obviously with you, it's time commitments and things like that, but turning the wrong stuff away and, just making more time for, yeah, I really want these things and I'm just going to go out and do that. And, I know that you're somebody who can do that, and you are the boundary queen. You are somebody who has really clear boundaries. And one of the things that I admire about you and what you're saying there is, I'm not going to commit to something that I can't do. And actually, I was talking to Heather and Beth about this earlier. Yesterday, I got reamed publicly in a group for apparently committing to something that I'd not committed to and then not going through with it, right? And it was public and it was all very, uncomfortable. And I kind of went, oh, well, actually, I didn't commit to that thing. So it wasn't, it wasn't right, but it still made me uncomfortable. So yeah, I completely hear you, but I would also say everyone has their own challenges. You deal with yours amazingly. And, I firmly believe that you can turn away other challenges and you can say, well, do you know what other commitments, they're not right for me for where I am right now. And instead I'm going to go and do this.
And
Claire,
one of the things one of the things I would add to that, Emma, is the idea that like we do what we can with what we can. But if we're deliberate and mindful about that decision, then we're still owning the business process. So for example, in 2015, I had made the decision to transition out of my brick and mortar private therapy practice. And it was a multi-six-figure full practice when I just realized I was burnt the F out and I didn't want it anymore. It was rough timing because my husband got really sick and he was sick for 8 months. It was 5 hospitalizations and 6 surgeries. I was learning the foundations of building a business from the ICU waiting room. I took a coaching call with my business building coach from a waiting room of the hospital. That meant like, no, I didn't feel confident to put myself out there on social media. No, I wasn't offering shit tons of value and posting everywhere because I didn't want the attention on me. So that became the time that I had to learn. I'm still the boss of my business. I was still choosing the direction, even though I had this huge obstacle. So I think part of it is and this is exactly the same sort of thing I was saying to Gemma, once we know who we are, or once we know like the way our lives are, we can get crystal clear on what it is we want, know what the non-negotiables are, and then work around them and move towards the how. That's still being the boss. I heard so many comments yesterday about people who took a back seat in their business, or they took a step back because they weren't making money. That's not always a step backwards. Sometimes that's, I don't know what the F I'm doing. I'm taking a step back because what I'm doing makes no sense and I need to chart a better direction. That's the boss decision. You can keep going and contribute to the hot mess of a public business, or you can stop, regroup, take a breath, and see where you want to go. That has nothing to do with money, but it's still being the boss.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And we've got Claire here who's saying, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from Heather, who told me that I need to tell my community that I've let them down because they're suffering and I can help, and I haven't been telling them how. Light bulb moment. I remember that. These are the things. And if you do have questions, please obviously pop them in. We're more than happy to answer them. But if you haven't gone out and you haven't done your post today and you're thinking, actually, yes, I want to step up into the boss mode and there is something stopping me, there's always going to be. Quite honestly, there's always going to be a reason why you can't be the boss today, or you don't want to be the boss today. And I'm always very open about the days that I just don't feel like doing it. I just don't feel like turning up, and I just feel like switching Voxer off and not replying to emails and just not doing the things, because that day I just don't want to be an adult, let alone a boss, let alone somebody who's running a business, let alone with all the responsibility. And people in here who are parents have added, it's added responsibilities and things. But if you don't step up, you step out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what it comes down to, because there is only so long that you can make money online before you either have to get in the arena and be a boss and accept that you are going to be some kind of leader in order to grow, or you step out and you say, do you know what, actually, not for me. And your business will plateau naturally of its own accord. And that is what it is. And either way, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment. You don't have to have the business that I want, and I don't have to have the business that you want. But it's got to be a conscious decision. And it's not something that comes from saying, oh, well, I'm grateful for whatever I get. It's something that comes from you going, okay, where am I and where do I want to be? And how am I going to get there? Lauren, where can I see the question? Oh, so you'll get sent a question for today automatically. I think I sent you one for yesterday, but I can resend today's out to you if you like. I can forward that across, that you've got today's as well. And then tomorrow you'll get tomorrow's and today's. You'll just be lucky. You get all the days. Okay, so are there any questions, or is everyone okay with that? And how many people have already posted for today? How many people have already posted? I've tried to go through. I'm still going through some of the posts from today and writing on all of them. So if I have missed you, I'm going through them still. Bear with me catching up. And if you don't hear from me today, then make sure that you re-tag me so I can come back to you and I don't miss yours out.
It's funny with all the UK people, because I'm in Pacific Standard Time, so I wake up at 7 o'clock and I already feel like I'm like behind. I'm like, oh my God, I have 25 notifications. I'm already behind and my day hasn't even started.
Oh dear, amazing. Okay, perfect. So we've got lots of people have posted and tagged us. Awesome. Okay, in that case, then we will let you go away, have your afternoons, evenings, mornings, wherever you are. And if you haven't posted for today, obviously make sure that you get that done. I'm going to be teaching a pole dancing class for my sins in about 2 hours' time.
Yes, you heard that correctly.
More bruises, more bruises. For those of you who aren't in the dotties, you probably haven't seen the extent of the bruises that I have, but they are pretty big, and they've only just stopped hurting. So obviously once I go tonight, it's all over. Game over. My legs are just broken. But make sure that you do post today, and then obviously look out in your inbox for day 3 of the challenge. which will be hitting your inbox tomorrow, and we'll be looking at those 4 P's. All right, so we'll be looking at passion, procrastination, proactivity, and profit. That's what we're doing for the rest of the week. All right, awesome. All right, my loves, see you soon. Bye.